get it popping in the bathroom. Don't be selfish, man. Go ahead and pass it to him. Then we can know. It's like a million on my neck. Got all of these doors shut.
Yes. Today is happening. We are live streaming with Daymond John from Shark Tank. Yes. Hey is right. He's going to be here soon. He's coming soon. I can't wait. Guys, who has read Power Shift? Power Shift is a freaking amazing book. Hey Ruth. Hey everyone. What is up, fam? Yes. Damon is coming here from Switzerland. Holy shit. How's everyone's day? Okay, so today is really exciting because I am live streaming with Daymond John from Shark Tank, and he is such a freaking inspiration, and he's here. Hello.
Hey,
How are you doing?
I'm well. Let me just adjust the volume. I'm well, thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm so much better now that we are on live stream together because you are truly my biggest inspiration. Well, one of them.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much. Well, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so excited to talk about your book, Power Shift, and just chat with you in general because obviously you are an icon. And Power Shift is such an amazing book, and I think so fitting for right now, because it's all about success and shifting your power and your mindset so that you can get back into the place where you can go after what you really want in life. And you share the most amazing stories. So yeah, I just wanted to talk mostly about how did you figure out your destiny and why? Like, because you talk so much about destiny and why, and like I sort of wanted to get into that.
Yeah, so, when I wrote Power Shift, it was, because so many people felt like people either took power away from them or was in charge of the power they had in their lives. And I had to do some soul searching myself. And that's a really good question. How did I figure out my destiny or know it? I really didn't know it at all until I was probably at the lowest point in my life. And I had always loved hip hop and I always loved fashion, but I never realized that I could actually make a living gelling both of them together. And I was about 22 years old. I was always the cool kid in school. I was on some of the first rap tours in history because I used to like push around speakers and stuff like that. And right around 17 or 18, when I was graduating high school, because I had already got left back one time in the seventh grade, 'cause I was so cool. I laughed at all the kids that were saying they were going to go to college. At that time we called them nerds, right? Or band geeks, right? Today they're called Mark Zuckerberg and Timbaland and Dr. Dre, right?
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I did that whole, I'm going to take off a year and not go to college. And that one year became forever. I was at the lowest point in my life where I had already started two businesses, and I started them because I wanted to make money, and I never made money on them because that's exactly why I started them. And I failed at them, and I went to work at Red Lobster. And the kids that I made fun of, now they were 21, 22. They had good jobs because they went to college, and I'm serving them shrimp. And I'm the asshole at that point now. I thought I was cool, but now I realized, wait a minute, maybe I'm the asshole. And then
Mm-hmm.
I started doing something that was a hobby. I started putting clothes together that represented people who loved hip hop, and I started being able to go onto video sets and hang out and have a good time and be around artists. And I had a purpose. I found my purpose. I wanted to dress artists, and that became FUBU. And 8 years after that, I'd be 30 years old, and I'd be on the Forbes Cranes top 30 top 30 of 30, and I would have 350 people working for me. But that's when I found my why at 22 years old, at the lowest point in my life, because I had nothing else to look forward to.
I completely relate to that. And I think that through struggle comes so much opportunity and wisdom. And I know that you um, have had a lot of moments of struggle that have led to that. But I also feel like you've had a lot of moments of like fate and destiny
Yeah.
in your life. And one that really, really struck me was with the Kardashians because you initially said no to Shark Tank.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was Chloe who was like, actually, no, like you really have to take this opportunity, Damon. Like, come on, take the opportunity. It's a great opportunity.
You know, I always saw opportunity in amazing people, and I've worked with a lot of amazing people. And a lot of people have come to me over my course of my career because everybody who was a singer or an actor or a reality star wanted a clothing brand or some other type of brand because they wanted to extend their intellectual property. I wouldn't work with most of them because they had a lot of yes people around them, or they show up late to meetings. They want a brown bag given to their cousin Pookie in an alleyway, and I just didn't want to deal with them, right? Because they weren't good business people. But
Yeah.
you know, but I had a company called Heatherette that I invested in, and I remember backstage there was this beautiful girl that I saw, and she came with one of the girls from Danity Kane. I forgot who the girl was, and they were giving her a little bit of shade. I realized that some of the other people giving her shade. I was like, I wonder why. And I saw her, and I was like, I can see why they're giving her shade. And when I asked her name was Kim, and I know that she wanted to walk in the show, in the Heatherette show, but nobody wanted her to walk in the show. And I was like, why? I was like, listen, I talked to Richie and Trevor Raines, who are my partners over at Heatherette, and I said, I want this girl to walk in the show. So she started to walk in the show, and then all of a sudden, this sex tape came out of her. And I got to know her really well, and we became friends. And then her sisters, I started hanging out with them. And then Chloe almost became like one of the boys with us. We were always hanging out. And they started telling me about this show they had coming out, but they were like, I think the show may not happen because of the sex tape was leaked. And they said, can you help us out in regards to finding us endorsements and things like that if the show comes out? I get the show comes out. I walk them around to everybody, all the designers I know. I said, these girls will wear all of your products for $75,000. All of the family will wear the products for the entire year in their show. And all of my friends and all of my colleagues, I'm not going to name their clothing brands, they all said, no, these girls will never get anywhere. So I started dressing them myself. And if you notice the first 3 seasons of the Kardashians, they're wearing one of my brands called Coogee, because nobody else would dress these girls. And then we became so close, and and at that time, Kendall and Kylie were like little girls hiding underneath the table. They must have been like 9 years old. They would sneak into our meeting in the house. But these girls ended up becoming very, very family oriented. They're very good. They were very good friends of mine. And then Kris Jenner, she took some of the things that I showed her about product placement and stuff like that, and she took it to an entire another level, because they were poised and knew that TVs were becoming like the radio, and cell phones were becoming like a TV, and they took what I was showing them how to do in regards to product placement that I had done through the 90s, and they took it to a whole nother level. And I was managing their product placement at the time, and I'm gonna tell you something, they did a 10 times better job than I ever would have done. And that just shows you, like, when people are disciplined, I don't care, and they're disciplined and they know how to tap their resources, and they're smart and they're hardworking people, you can't stop them no matter who they are.
How do you stay disciplined? Like, do you have a morning routine that you always stick to? Like, what is your day like? Like, how do we become more like Damon? Like, tell us like your vibe.
Yeah, so my discipline starts from goal setting. When I read a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, I was 16 years
That was
old.
on my book list too.
So
It's such
absolutely.
a good
So
book.
it is an amazing, amazing book, and it teaches you how to
Changes your
set goals.
mindset.
It 100% does. And I read 10 goals every night before I go to bed, and every morning when I wake up, I read the same 10 goals. The reason I read them before I go to bed at night is because I want that to be the last thing that I'm thinking about when I go to sleep. So that's what I dream about. I also simultaneously put on audiobooks when I go to sleep, because your subconscious mind still soaks up some of the stuff being said. And the reason I read them in the morning, the same goals, is because I want it to be the first action I take. 6 of the goals, I read 10 goals. So 6 of them expire in 6 months. The other expire in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. The ones that expire in 6 months, I never reach them because I set them so big, and they range from faith to health to money and business. And so if I say I'm going to make this amount of money, maybe I make this amount of money. But when 6 months comes, I reset it for this amount of money. And
Yeah.
and so that's what keeps me on par, and that's my compass. And I read them when I wake up in the morning, and then I try to do, when my shoulder blown out, but I try to do some kind of exercise like 100 push-ups or whatever case is, get my adrenaline running, and then I meditate for a little while, and I give thanks to all the things that I have in life. And I try my hardest, and I always tell people to do this, and I talk about it in Rise and Grind, but I'm not perfect. I try my hardest not to answer any emails when I wake up, and not to look at any social media when I wake up for the first hour, because if you would do that, you allow emails. You'll never get an email that says, remember that problem I had yesterday? I solved it and there's $1 million on the way to you. That's never going to happen. Everybody tells you their problems. You're opening up yourself to everybody's problems. And I don't go on social media for the first hour because everybody's sexier, smarter, skinnier, and richer, and they're all just as screwed up, but they're just lying to you. So I don't want to take in problems and also have some form of jealousy, right? Because I'm like, why am I working like a dog and you're out there chilling or whatever you're doing? So those are my morning routines, and that's how that's what I try to do. And I can't say I'm perfect. Maybe I'll get 4 days like that, and the other 3, you know, I'm screwing up myself, you know?
Well, I love that because it's so real. You're so relatable, even though I know probably you get more than that in. But one thing about goal setting that I want to make clear, and because I practice that too, you really have to feel the goal. Like, you can't just write the goal down and be like, oh, I'm going to make $1 million. You have to be like, okay, like, I have $1 million. Like, you actually have to get that feeling of you like being successful. Like, it has to be a very, it can't be passive goal setting. You have to really put the effort in.
Goal setting is very specific. You have to say, what do you want? By what time do you want it? Meaning the limitation. How will you get there? And what will you do for it? So, argument's sake, if I say, I want to get down to 170 pounds. Well, I'm going to do this by not eating fried foods and meats, not eating after 6 o'clock, and substitute one meal with a juice, and walk 10,000 steps a day. I will lose 2 pounds or 1.5 pounds per week. And if I get down to the 170, I will be able to remain in my daughter's lives much longer, to walk them down the aisle, or I'll be able to fit into that high school dress that I used to fit into, and rekindle my relationship. Or I'm going to lose this. I'm gonna reduce my ability to be diabetic or whatever. So you have to do that, and you have to envision yourself in that dress, or me walking my daughters down the aisle. You can't just go, oh, that's gonna happen. And on the flip side, because what we do is we already set goals, but most of them are negative. I'm going to be bankrupt, and you see yourself living in a poverty-stricken area. Or I'm never going to find a good man or a good woman. I'm always going to be in a violent relationship, and you're visually seeing yourself there. So you remember, your subconscious mind, it doesn't judge whether this is truth or reality, or whether this is deserved or not. It is just what you are taking in.
I physically read your book, and you really are one of my favorite authors, because I just find you to be so inspirational, and you have an amazing advice. But I'm thinking now, like, you did it on Audible, right? Like, you did an audiobook?
I did, yeah.
You guys just should get the audiobook of this and listen to it, and have Damon like pumping through your veins, and like really like setting you in the right track, because we're in such a weird time right now. But you can take advantage of this and use it as an opportunity really to get better, and to see yourself at the end of this in the best way possible, and then create those goals to get there and fight for them every single day in the way that Damon was talking about. I love that. So you mentioned, before we were talking about that, you mentioned, like, you go on social media, you see people, maybe you got a little bit jealous of them. And I think it's really interesting, because when you talk to someone as successful as you, I mean, I feel like, what do you have to be jealous of? I'm like, you got it all, you're killing it. But it's very interesting that you still have those feelings. And how do you sort of fight jealousy? Because sometimes you can't control it. You just feel jealous, and it just makes you feel bad.
I personally don't consider what I do jealous. I consider it envy, and it could be envy in a good thing, and it motivates me. Like, I may have envy. I never have envy over anybody's. I never have envy over somebody's money. I never do that because, listen, I sit next to Mark Cuban every day. I wouldn't. What would I do with $1 billion? I have no
Yeah.
idea what I would do.
Yeah.
How many houses I'm gonna buy? Like, how you only sleep in the bedroom and then you go to the kitchen, you do the
Yeah.
bathroom, and then that's it. Maybe you watch
I
TV a
know.
little bit.
I know.
When I envy people, I envy that maybe it's always a motivation factor to say, all right, like I like Mark Cuban. Like listen, what I envy about Mark Cuban, maybe I don't have $1 billion, but I know that he's going to be able to hopefully take care of his staff and so many other people for so much longer because he has that. And I need to find ways to do that for my staff. I'm not going to point the finger and go, oh, look at it. I'm going to say, how can I do that for my staff, right? Or if I see somebody who's Steven Spielberg, I remember watching something where he's home no matter where he's shooting or what he's doing. He's home every day for his kids at 6 o'clock. I envy that because I want to be there for my kids. So I don't have
Yeah.
the envy. Or I see somebody worked out and I know they got a schedule like me. I go, Damon, you're lying to yourself. Stop drinking.
Yeah.
Stop. You wake up in the morning in the hotel. I look in the garbage. I think a dog got into the garbage because I'm eating everything in the mini bar. You're lying to yourself. Will Smith got a body like that because he puts in the work. You can envy him all you want, but you know your ass gotta go put in
Yeah.
the work.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I envy about
Exactly.
people. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just you envy their discipline, but what's so clear about like the way that you live your life is discipline. Like it's all of these decisions happening every day, and it will lead to something that is so much bigger that then you can
Yeah.
show off. But a lot of it is thankless and,
I think
happens
what
in the
and
dark.
I think what people can learn from this conversation right now that we're having is because I envy people, I can call them up and say, hey, give me a workout routine or do this and that.
Yeah.
When you're jealous of people, you don't reach out, right? You internalize it. You have all these issues. But right now, if this was a month ago, you may have called somebody and they may have been like, I'm on a plane. I don't see the vision. I don't. You know where everybody is right now, and everybody's willing to pick up the phone right now. So you turn that mindset of jealousy into envy, and how can we work together? And you pick up that phone and dig into your Rolodex and say, hey, what's going on? I got an idea. Or how can I be of value to you? And that same envy will turn into collaborations.
But that's you. That's a power shift, right?
Yeah.
Like in doing that, you're shifting from like, oh, I have no power, I've lost control over this feeling, to then like having actual like ability to do something and to take, and that's, I think, so beautiful and something that is so awesome about your book to learn from.
Thank you.
But in times like these, obviously I've been seeing you everywhere. You're promoting your book, you are out there, you're live streaming into this show and that show. And do you find it hard at all to stay motivated during these weird times where you're just
Um,
rocking and rolling?
no, because I said gold, but I'm telling you now, I'm busier now than ever before. But that doesn't mean that it's converting into more money, right? It's more opportunity that I have, but I'm also busier because I love the challenge, and I knew this challenge was going to come around. And the reason why I knew this challenge would come around because it's always going to be something every 10 years. So I went through the 98 crash. I went through the dot-com bubble crash, then all of a sudden 9/11, then the '08, and now this. And what's, another 5, 10 years is going to be war or something else is going to have us screwed up in the economy. And I'm always prepared for this as well as I can be. Will I have to make some tough decisions in regards to, financial decisions for all the companies that I have? Absolutely. And it's not going to be easy, but I'm busier now than ever trying to figure it out. Listen, I'm on the road, used to be on the road 250 days a year because I do so many speaking and appearances and stuff like that. Now my appearances have turned to be virtual appearances. And that's why you're seeing me in all these things, because I know during a critical time, too many people are out there making entrepreneurship or making themselves sound like everything is great when they're screwed up. And I think that we need to see transparency from people like me who've had the opportunity to be in this position, so other people out there know they're not alone.
I love that you're so committed to helping people find their personal power. It's something that I am also really committed to, and helping people figure out their personal power when it comes to money. And relating back to what you said about how this happens every 10 years, my audience is very millennial, very Gen Z. And for many of us, this is the first time that we've had money invested in a bear market because we've been flying high, you know, like,
Sure.
woo,
Sure.
we thought that like this was what investing was. Like, it's all great.
Sure.
And obviously this, you know, what's going on right now puts 2008 to shame, but it's really that sentiment that I keep coming back to, which is like, this is going to happen again. And so you have to figure out how you can get through it now and stay grounded and stay humble and really like set yourself up for future success instead of letting it completely overtake you. And that is in itself a power shift. So, I mean, really, kudos to you for naming your book about something that we can really bring up a lot.
No, and I'm glad that I'm breaking it down to people in that form, because if you really look at, like, let's say Warren Buffett says, the market and or opportunity is something that takes money away from the impatient and gives it to the patient, the one with patience. And look, Warren Buffett didn't make most of his money until he was in his 60s, right?
Yeah,
And
I know.
yeah. And even right now, he's still regretting some investments he may not have made and looking for new opportunities. The man is 90 years old and he's still looking for more opportunity, right? So we can all learn from that here as the market will. I think the market is going to go down to about 17. I think that I have no idea what they're thinking about right now out there, but I think as the second wave comes and we won't get a vaccine for another, a year to 18 months. I think there's going to be a lot more loss out there, and I think the market is going to go down. And then that is really a buying opportunity.
Yeah, and that's why you got to stay liquid so you can take advantage.
That's right.
Yeah, Warren Buffett's so funny with like he's so long term. Like, I'm obsessed with him. He's actually my boyfriend, so not to brag. Quarantining with Warren Buffett.
That's right.
But he talks about how like he doesn't even like to spend like $8 on a haircut because he knows with compound interest, if he invested that in 50 years, the $8 would be, like 20,000 or 50,000 or whatever. So, it really is all about patience. And with investing in all of these companies, it's patience as well. And you have hit on such amazing, not even hit, like it's because you're so smart that you were able to do that. But what do you think when you're first meeting these entrepreneurs and they're pitching to you? Is there a gut feeling where you're like, this is a successful investment? Like, what is sort of your compass in order to figure out, should I go for this or not?
I wish I could tell you that it was me being brilliant. I've lost a lot of money in a lot of my investments, and the ones that I didn't think necessarily work out end up becoming my most lucrative investments. And but what is it initially? What it happens? It's initially the person. It always is the person. They get my attention. I feel like that we can work together, and so I like that. Then I hear the numbers and the product and whatever the case is, and I either go, I really like you, but the numbers aren't there, or you're asking too much of me, not necessarily monetarily, but too much commitment, and I got my own day job. I can't do this, or the market is too small. So come back to me if you have something of value that we can do together. But the ones that do work out, number one is Bombas socks on my Shark Tank. I have the number one invested product in Shark Tank history, and it's just socks. But I like the guys. I did not. They're in power shift because I was not looking for any clothing companies. I already had 10 clothing companies, and 8 of them were dead. The last thing I wanted was another sock company. But they were amazing guys. I love their energy. I loved also that they were going to show me. They knew my weaknesses. Damon, you're only in retail. We're going to show you how to sell directly online. Also, Damon, you love a lot of charitable causes, and every time we sell a pair of socks, we give a pair away to the homeless who have challenges with cleanliness for their feet. So I figured it was a symbiotic relationship. I'm going to learn how to sell my clothes, on whether this business works out or not. But these are two great guys, end up becoming the most successful product in Shark Tank history. And if you have to think about it like that, whether we're talking to people right now who are going to apply for a new job or go back to their office or get an investment, after you pass the resume, it's, can I stand working with you for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for the next 5 years of my life? I don't need to spend money on investments with people I don't like. I will just send my money over to Berkshire Hathaway, and I'm sure my money's going to increase. So why do I need to deal with a bozo? So it's really if people like you.
And you're so likable that it's like And you talk so much about how to turn a deal into a relationship, right? Like so
Yeah.
many people look at this as a one-off, oh, get in, get out, but you're always forward thinking to down the line. And that's, how did you figure that out? Like what I guess was like the first deal that you had that you were able to come back to, and like what tips do you have about turning an opportunity to meet someone into a relationship?
And I think that's what you hit on the core of what power shift is. Power
Mm-hmm.
shift is the three aspects of negotiating. People think negotiating is very transactional, is very Shark
Mm-hmm.
Tank like, and it's not. And negotiating is the only thing that separates those who are successful from those who are not. It's what they negotiated through life. And there's three processes to it. The first one is building influence. The second one is negotiating, but what's in it for the person you're negotiating with. And
Mm-hmm.
then the third one is, as we're talking about, is developing a relationship. And I never realized that I was doing this over the course of my life until I turned around after I wrote my other books and I said to myself, what is the defining factor that I have as well as Kris Jenner or Lindsey Vonn or Pitbull or Mark Cuban that I all put in the book? And I realized that after you live a certain amount of time, you realize how much you've tapped into certain relationships over the course of your life, right? And that is when I realized that that is key to it. And a lot of people will say, well, Damon, how do I build influence with you if I only saw you in the elevator? I pitched you for 90 seconds. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if you come in the elevator and you never knew you were going to see me, and you say about this, a perfect pitch is when somebody's kind of telling you the train is going to leave the station with or without you. They just want you
Yeah.
on it if you want,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't feel like a
Mm-hmm.
crush. They're not telling you their problems. And then they say, listen, here's some things that I can do for you, and I'm sure that I can value this way. Just look me up, or if you ever have time. I'm going to go outside that elevator, and I'm going to call my assistant, and I'm going to look you right up on
Mm-hmm.
my iPhone. And that's where you build influence, because I'm going to go through a lot of things you posted and seeing what you've been doing over the course of the time. I remember a woman gave me a great picture in the elevator. I did like her. I looked her up. And every time I saw her take a picture, she was with this guy, and it was her husband, and he kept having T-shirts on with the Confederate flag on it. I naturally thought that, hey, I'm assuming that you think the
Yeah.
same way. This is your husband. She doesn't
Mm-hmm.
know why I never called her back.
Yeah.
I've also seen people on there that pitch me, and I talk to them, and I realize they're charitable people. They are a little bit they're younger, but they can do reverse mentorship in my company. They can come into my company and teach the people a little bit older how to communicate on social media, what a TikTok is, and why this is of a valuable way to understand, to use what you've learned in the past and put it on this different platform. And I want them in my company because they're
Mm-hmm.
young and they're energetic. So those are the things. Those are the three things to do. First of all, you build influence. Second of all, you negotiate, and then you tap into the relationships, because a deal almost never happens the first time you meet a person. That's usually
Yeah.
a let's follow back up. I like what you think about. This is not for us, but any other opportunities come around, or it's never the first time that you meet somebody that the deal happens.
Do you feel like when you were in the beginning of your career, you were actively taking note of all of this? Or was it when you started to write books that you were able to sort of piece together, oh, this is actually what made me successful? Like, because it
Yeah.
sounds like it was very intuitive for you at the beginning, and then you were able to sort of create this blueprint for others.
Correct. I didn't have any idea what I was doing. It just came natural, whatever I
Yeah.
was doing. And listen, I don't write books to write them. This is my third book in 5 years, and I'm dyslexic. It is very,
Mm-hmm.
very hard writing a book. I only write them when I believe that the information that enough people, after they read one or two other books, and they go, hey, but you haven't answered this. And I start writing that down. And then after about a year, I go, wait a minute. Okay, I want to understand this as well. And that's why I go down the journey in my books and talk to other subjects, because I'm learning from them as well with my reader. And I'm trying to dish it out in a very conversational manner like you and I having.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the books, that the
Yeah.
professors do with the big brains and words that I don't
Oh,
understand, because I'm like,
I know.
I just tell me how to get it done. You know what I mean? So I never realized that I was doing a lot of those things and actions, and then when I write the books, that's how I learn and look back and reflect.
Yeah, and I think that you're such like some of the people that you put in the book, like Pitbull, who really struggled in school and then had like this mother who was such a champion of him and basically encouraged him to explore learning in other ways
Yeah.
versus just like the status quo. And I think that like you're so inspiring to so many people because you show that like there's not just one path. What really just separates people is grit and determination and obviously good ideas, but a lot of it is just being savvy.
Yeah, it's being
Um,
savvy. It's also using common sense too, and you know
yeah.
what? And it's knowing your why, right? Because if you don't know your why are you doing it? You know, like, are you doing it because society's telling you to do it? Are you trying to impress a bunch of people on
Yeah.
Instagram that you really don't like? Did your parents tell you that you used to do this, or are you trying to save the carbon imprint on this planet? Are you trying to save lives? Are you trying to make enough money
Mhm.
to give your family the things you need and access to good health care and things of that nature? People don't know their why, and I think Pitbull is really somebody in the book who sums up his why. Pitbull is a well-known battle rapper. I mean,
Mhm.
he's like a keep it real rapper all day, and he can
Mhm.
do all that, and the real rappers know that. But they started to say, yo, you're a sellout, because you know what his why was? His why was like, I've been in the hood so long, and it's so nasty out there, and people sometimes just want to escape, and they just want to dance. And he said, that's what I'm going to do. And I don't care about all that keep it real bullshit. I'm going to make people dance worldwide. And he did it, and against everybody else. Now look at him.
So amazing. Yeah, and you know, that's why I also love the book because it brought light to these people who I feel like go sort of under the radar, but are so successful and have the most amazing advice to give. And you really were able to give them a platform. And I learned so much from it. So yeah, if you guys are
Thank you so much.
watching this, make sure that I might listen to it on audiobook too, because I read it, but I'm dyslexic too. So I feel like I definitely didn't pick up some things as well. But yeah. Um, so for you though, like when you wake up, like you've done all this work before you go to sleep. But what about if you wake up and you just feel completely off? Do you have things that you do that sort of bring you back? You know, like what is what are the ways that you get back to like your why? If you forget your why, do you ever forget your why? Or
I
like get
do,
away
and
from it?
I do, and I sometimes when I'm off and when I wake up or even in the middle of the day, I try to go to a different why of why am I pissed off or why am I depressed, and I go through this kind of checklist of, is it a call that I was just on? Is it a dream I had? Is it somebody I haven't spoken to? What? And I try to go to that why, get to that core of that why. And I also try not to react. I respond. I try not to make immediate decisions upon the way that that call has made me feel by, lashing out and sending an email that cannot be taken back. I try to think about it and maybe later on in the day or tomorrow, and I say this is a bad day. Is it because I'm sick? A lot of times, obviously not the COVID, but a lot of times when we're sick, we're down and the entire world feels overwhelming. And sometimes I go, you know why I'm pissed off? Because I was drinking till 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm tired as shit and I'm overreacting. I try to just go
Mhm.
into some of these things. And I know this is very simple advice, but sometimes that's just what it is. And I say, I'll make that decision later on.
I love that. And I mean, I thought when you were saying that it was because you were sick, because obviously you have an amazing story about how you basically use mindset to not give up when you were diagnosed with cancer, which like thyroid
Yeah.
cancer is no joke. And you were like able to really just fight against it. And you've been healthy for many years now. And I just find that so awesome that you were able to shift that. You were able to power shift against cancer, which is pretty remarkable.
Well, it was just my mindset against cancer, but I was very, very, I was in a dark place. It wasn't in a dark place. It was like when I had it, and I can share it with people because obviously it's in the book, but I really, when I
Yeah, I didn't mean to
realized
just
that,
like bring that up out of the blue. I just was like,
no, 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 it's okay. Listen, I had stage 2 cancer. I didn't realize I had
yeah.
it. It was a golf ball size of cancer in my
Yeah,
throat
it's
that I
a crazy
realized I had it.
story.
And it was slowly going to move to my now thyroid cancer is serious, but it's the slowest growing cancer, thank God. And it was, it could have been in my lymph nodes. I wouldn't have known, and then it would obviously move to my brain. But I had to then decide, what am I going to do? Am I going to accept this thing and slowly start winding down my companies and know that I may not be on this planet much longer, you know, and I was being very selfish about it, I've had the best life ever. I've lived more than 10 people's lives. And I was being selfish because I would have been out of my daughter's lives, out of my wife's lives, and no mother should ever bury her son. And then I had to reflect and say, wait a minute, look how great my life is. I have, you know, I have all these things to fight for, you know what I mean? And once I realized that I had all these things to fight for and how I had to really tap into how blessed I was, I just totally forgot that I even had it. And when the results came back, it showed that it did not move to my lymph nodes. I mean, of course, you know, I still have to test myself every 6 months, but I was already convinced that even if it didn't move to my lymph nodes, fuck it. I ain't going to let cancer do anything to me. I'm going to be here and I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to be around as long as I can. And I'm going to have a great time and keep, you know, loving my wife and my kids and my mother and my family and hopefully changing other people's lives.
I believe so much in that. Like there's this story right now that's going around about this woman who is she's like a well-known fitness instructor, and her husband is a Broadway star, and he's suffering from COVID and he's in a coma. And like, she has been on Instagram every day, so positive, so dancing, happy, has created this whole movement around it. And it's just been such a reminder that like mindset is everything, because she really could have just let it overtake her, but she is fighting every day to keep her destiny and to keep like reaching for the dream that she has of being with him and living the rest of their lives out. But I know that
it's a mindset. Yeah. And we have our dark days and we're all human, but we got to keep moving forward in a good way.
Okay. 2 more questions for you.
Yeah.
The first is like, I want to know how you became so good with money, because obviously, I mean, I worked with your team to book this. You run a tight ship. You have all stars on your team.
Well,
shout out to Taryn. She was amazing to work with. And I want to know, like, when you first like started to make money, how did you know how to allocate it? How did you, like, do you have an advisor? Like, what are the ways in which like you became financially savvy? And are there things that maybe we could learn from you?
Okay, so when I first started FUBU, I closed it down 3 times from 89 to 92 because I ran out of money. Then when I took this loan on my house for $100,000, I turned around and there was $500 left in the bank, and I was 3 months late on the mortgage. I didn't deliver all the goods because I didn't have financial intelligence. I was buying raw goods, paying for them 90 days ahead of time. Then I was paying for the mortgage. I was paying for equipment, salaries, and shipping. And then my stores wouldn't pay me for 30, 60, 90 days. So I almost lost everything, and finally took out an ad in the paper and ended up having some great partners. And then my first $20 million, I blew my first $20 million. And I realized at that point that thank God I wasn't an athlete or something like that who makes and peaks their money in the first part of their career. I had way more income coming in, but I said to myself, how did I go through that $20 million? And I realized that I did not have any financial intelligence. And listen, somebody may say, how do you go through $20 million? And I was buying lavishly, but not that lavish, right? You make $20 million and Mr. IRS takes $8 million.
It's $10 million. Yeah, it's really $10 million.
It's anywhere from $10 to $12 million, right?
I always tell myself half, and it really helps.
Right. So now all of a sudden you got $10 million out of the 20, and let's say you buy just one house for $1.5 million, and now you have to furnish that house, you have the maintenance on it, you have taxes on it. You're out about $2.5 million. Now you have $7.5 million right now. Everybody also has a $50,000 problem. You give away about $500,000 to a $5,000 problem. Excuse me. You give away about $500,000 to friends and homies because you think that you should do that.
Yeah,
now
you're
you got
loaded now. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you got about $7 million, right? And now you go and put your money in the market, but you didn't know what you were doing, and you do some kind of investments, but the market all of a sudden goes from 29,000 down to 21,000. You're scared as shit. You pull your money out because you put it in high, and you took it out when it was low. Yeah. And now all of a sudden now you got a year worth of furloughing and stuff like that, where you got to pay for employees, everything else, because this happened to me right around 9/11. All of a sudden, the $20 million is $1.5 million. And I'm not talking about if you're selfish and you're trying to fly on jets and you got a baby mama over here. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when I went through it, I said, what the hell happened? And I remember somebody saying to me, which I share with people, they said, you were never taught financial intelligence because the school system is not set up to teach you financial intelligence. Because why would they give you financial intelligence so that you don't take a $300,000 loan for education you're not sure that you want at 18 years old? They're not going to give you financial intelligence. So I started to study. I started to watch people like you and Jim Cramer and open my own TD Ameritrade account and start to operate it myself instead of saying, you, Mr. Accountant, can run this. You, Mr. Stockbroker, can do this. I started to ask the questions of why it works, why it doesn't work, what's compounding interest, and all that kind of stuff.
Love.
Of course.
And if anyone's watching this and feeling like they want to learn the basics of investing, Warren Buffett's Ground Rules is always the book that I recommend. It's so good. I don't know if you've read it, but it's like basically the whole book is just about compounding, which is awesome. So yeah, you were able to ask for help, and you also learned through experience, which is exactly how I am too. Like if you tell me the stove is hot, I need to touch it and get burned. Like I've always, and I've made a ton of financial mistakes too. And I think it has just made me a better teacher. But my last question is random, but I'm random. And it is, how do you have such amazing skin? Like, what is your skincare routine? I'm like looking at you. You are flawless. Like,
well, thank you. My mommy gave it for my gave it to me for my birthday. So that's about, I mean, I wish I could tell you I used to, when I was a kid, I used to rub Crisco grease on myself. I use the cheapest lotions like the Jergens, all that, but I'm half Trinidadian, and that means a portion of me is Indian, from India, and my mother's African American. I guess it's just been, that's been fortunate for me.
Okay, amazing. That was my beauty question. Damon, you are so awesome. Guys, if you watch this and you have not added PowerShift to your cart, downloaded it on Audible, you have made a big mistake. Seriously, this book, and it's a great book for right now because it will completely change your mindset, and you will find the chutzpah, as Jews say, I'm a Jew, to keep going. And that's the biggest thing, right, Damon?
It is, and there's some people in there that you will never have heard of, but they are really, really great for this time because they've become virtual assistants and things that you can do at home. Once you take inventory of what you have and what you have to offer the world. That's
the biggest thing. You are an icon, a legend.
Thank you so much. You're so sweet. Thank you
so much for joining me. You are awesome. Thank you.
All right, and thank you for keep educating people. I appreciate you, and stay safe.
Oh, of course. Stay safe. Bye.